This is Oregon tight end Terrance Ferguson.
Sometimes it takes this position a while to fully break out. You can start seeing the athletic traits over time start developing. I think that's exactly what's happened to Terrance Ferguson. 22-year-old senior, has been with the Oregon Ducks for 4 years. Even this last year, 49 yards per game. That's okay, but nothing fantastic. But they try to get him on the move. And at the combine, you see some of the athletic traits really start to pop. They really tried to get him in the screen game. You can see some of the great movement skills with him. I just kept coming back to, I just did not love him at the catch point. I thought he had a couple drops on there, but that's something that we've seen other tight ends just start to grow over single time. So I'm still hopeful long term.
Stick a pin in that negative because that is something that I have a theory on to go back on.
Okay.
As you outlined, tight end is a traits-based position. We didn't have that many tight ends go through all of the athletic testing this year. Of the ones that we did, Terrance Ferguson is easily at the top. 6'5", 255 pounds, as you said, just turned 22 years of age in February. A huge, massive 81-inch wingspan, a 1.6, 110, 4.63 40, 96 percentile vert, and 76 percentile broad jump. And to me, all of those athletic traits absolutely show up on tape. He will definitely break tackles that are waist up. His strength definitely shows up in those areas. And when he gets vertical, he is, to me, shot out of a cannon. And the game against Stanford in 2023 shows this. I really liked a whole bunch of the aspects that he brought in the receiving game. I just mentioned he can run by you. He can also displace you at the top of routes. Oregon State and the Penn State games showed that too. And to me, especially in 2023, he did show some off-frame acrobatic catches in his locker, and then the speed to eat up cushions and win after the catch too.
Yeah, we saw a lot of the same things. I think that his underrated, sneaky part of his game was just he can break tackles, and it's just like that initial tackle, and he does it in multiple ways. Like one, he's just a giant out there, and like you can feel like some guys like are listed that big, but they don't play to that size. I think that Ferguson does that, but he's also just like really athletic, and I think that you can start seeing some guys bounce off of him, and I think that's why Oregon tried to get him in the screen game, throw him some underneath passes, and not all of those like went for big plays, but I can understand why they kept trying to spring him open. You also saw him get some scheme touches in the red area, which happens, when you're 6'5". So to me, like I see the ability in the receiving game. There's a couple of nice push offs on the out routes, which I did like. He can run by guys against in man coverage as well. It just comes back to the catch point, feel for zone coverage, those type of things, which I'm just a little bit fearful of, but I think we see him pretty similarly.
Yeah, so there was a game last year against UCLA, and it was the fourth game of the season. And in that one, he only had one catch for 18 yards because he left with a head injury. It was a massive hit. To me, all of 2023 and that game and 3 games before that, his ball skills were fantastic. To my theory that I have in my head is that the tight window targets that he got after that, I noticed that the ball shocked him a little bit,
Yeah.
that he was a bit more hesitant in those safety coming on, throwing me into a corner or a linebacker situations, and was a bit, I'm not going to say fearful, but knowing what just happened to him with this, I believe it was a targeting foul, and you could see him laying on the field
Mhm.
after that. And I think it did impact his contested targets and just flat out drops, which he did have a few number of this year. You try not to have these things influence you when you're watching this. When I watched all of his 2023 with Bo Nix, some of the most majestic catches at the tight end position that we've seen this year were made by Terrance Ferguson, and they were off frame again, like throwing my shoulder back, and he would even line up against corners and route
Mhm.
them up one on one too. And then I do want to bring up the yards after catch numbers. He averaged 9 yards after the catch per reception this year. That's number one in this tight end class, period. And there are
Yep.
some, freaks in that area just in terms of either speed, like Harold Fannin versus his competition, and then also Tyler Warren with the bulldozing mentality. But I think it is notable that Terrance Ferguson is number one in that category.
Yeah, definitely notable, and that's just like we're talking about what the 90th percentile in the jumps and the long speeds there as well. So yeah, I think you're going to get him some scheme touches, definitely the crossing routes, definitely want him running up the seam, and then hopefully when he is running up the seam and on those crossing routes, he can just play the contested catch situations a little bit better. But yeah, that's an interesting theory that you did throw out there. There's also a couple other things. He was like end up out of bounds. Like sometimes you saw this in the red zone a couple times, and I was always just like, what's going on there? I mean, he contributed for all 4 years with the Ducks, even though he wasn't like a producer. Like he was out there for 4 seasons with Dan Lanning out there. So yeah, he's my tight end 6th. I ended up putting him like 63rd overall. When I initially watched him, like I just could not get over the catch point stuff. But at the end of the day, and you always bring this up on all our shows, it's just this position, like you have to like really start trying to think about this in 3 years, 4 years from now. And if that can get a little bit better, he has the athletic traits that we're looking for a starting tight end in the league.
I'm just checking PFF right now, and their charting is up to a couple individual people, but his 4 drops this year happened after that UCLA game. Two in the 2 games after it, and then he had two against Maryland as well in week 11. I know, like, contested targets, tight window targets on top of that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is just something that if all of you want to go back and watch, that's something that stuck out to me. I just love the combo of the 62-yard catch and run he had against Michigan State. Again, the real speed that he showed. And then a couple targets later, he went down to his left hip while getting upfield versus that same Spartans defense. I do want to bring up that, to me, he definitely profiles as a team's future, like, lone tight end, as their tight end one. I have him as my tight end 4 in this class. Just the
Okay.
more I watched, the more I really, really liked. I will say, despite his 6'5", 255-pound frame, he kind of has the same head dropping tendency that Elijah Arroyo does. Go and watch that prospect profile for all of you out there as well. But I think his, like, grip and his strength is so much stronger, much easier for him to latch on to his opposition and, like, accomplish his assignment in that way. So I just think, like, a couple technical flaws here or there, if he cleans those up, then I really do think he can be a starting tight end for a long time in the league.
Yeah, I thought his technique was subpar as well. I thought his play strength came and went, but I think a lot of times the play strength that I'm looking for is also just like probably tied to the technique. So kind of those two things could be correlated. He definitely has the size to be a monster as a blocker. It is a little bit concerning that 4 years playing with the Ducks and he still isn't all the way there. But that's why they interview these guys and they can see what's going on there. Last note I wanted to bring up: sometimes his ball tracking was like hilariously bad. Like he would just like not come down with it, not even like touch the football. And I was like kind of wondering what the hell was going on there too. So Jugs machine, blocking technique, and then I'm with you. I think that this could be a long-term starter.
That one-hander versus Washington, though, in 2023 is just, like, sticking out my head that he can do this. All right, that does it. My tight end 4. Hayden has a bit later on. This is a loaded tight end group with all
It
different
really
flavors. So
is.
if you haven't watched our other prospect profiles, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, and go watch another video.